Okay, it's finally time to add sidechain compression to my SP-404 Mark II setup using the Polyend Press, going into the Roland MC707 as a send effect, which takes up 4 separate jacks to get that stereo send and stereo return signal. Then I'm going to have to silently MIDI trigger the kick drum on the MC707 with my TD17 electronic drum kit, and then map the kick drum to the assignable out going into the sidechain jack on the Polyend Press. Sure is complicated, but I know it's going to be worth it to get sidechain compression into my SP-404 Mark II. But I guess really quick, I should do some research and see if anyone else has figured this setup out. Let's see here. I'm going to search Roland SP-404 Mark II sidechain compression. Well, that changes things. So I'm editing this video right now, and I realized I completely forgot to do a patron shoutout. So today's patron shoutout goes to Noise Theorem. Thank you so very much for the support. So yes, all jokes aside, Roland did just announce that the SP-404 Mark II is getting sidechain compression for 404 Day, which is in just a couple of days. Today you're watching this is Wednesday, April 1st. This is not an April Fool's video, but Roland is releasing a new update with this much awaited feature at 5 p.m. Pacific on April 2nd. So if you're watching this the second it came out, just 24 hours from now. Which is absolutely huge for this new setup that I've been working on. And no, I had zero idea that this was coming until just a day before they announced it, when I reached out to my Roland rep and I was like, hey, is anything coming for 404 Day? And he responded and I was like, oh, gotcha. So that Synthwave tips video I released is very quickly going to be outdated. But that's okay. I still like that video and I like the jam we came up with. But yeah, sidechain compression coming to the 404 Mark II. Now in the intro, you saw me kind of jokingly remove the Polyend Press from the setup, but that really wasn't a joke. It is no longer going to be part of this setup because I simply don't need it. I only had it in the setup to give sidechain compression to the 404, basically through sidechaining as a return effect, or send effect rather, on the MC707. And as I've spent the past week and a half or so with this setup, I've actually kind of realized that I don't necessarily need the MC707 here either. I have been using it as the primary sound module for this setup, but I've really only found myself using like 5 or 6 different sounds on it. And for the rest of them, I've either just been using samples directly imported to the 404 Mark II, or I've been using the tone generator to come up with my own sounds. And as much as I love the 707 and I have applauded its extensive I/O, it's also been adding a lot of cables to this setup and taking up a lot of room that now I'm realizing probably doesn't have to happen anymore. So today I want to clean this setup up a bit and maybe get some of your opinions on what you think should go right here on this part of the stand. I think we'll keep the KeyStep 37 just because it is a fantastic controller, but I'm totally open to hear what synths or devices you think would work well in this setup up here, under the assumption that everything is still going to be going straight into the SP-404 Mark II. Right now I kind of like the idea of the 1010 Fireball, which is a synth that I already own, but I'm also open to keeping the setup fully Roland and seeing about getting my hands on an S1. Also, while the SP-404 Mark II does have the mic input on the bottom and a MIDI controllable vocoder, I feel like adding the proper E4 to the setup could also be a great way to get vocals in here. And it would also free up the input here on the bottom of the unit for my bass guitar, which could be a fun thing to use in this setup. So I'm going to go ahead and get to work taking the MC707 out of this setup, and I'll check in with you when I'm done. Okay, so check-in time. This is where I'm at right now. I got rid of a lot of the cables down there. You'll notice the press is still completely gone. The MC707 is now gone. And I think this is the assortment of gear that I want to wind up using. I know I said I wanted to streamline things, and this does sort of streamline things, but it also opens things up a bit and gives me even more options. I do know that I want to have the 1010 Fireball here as the main synth, at least for now. I think it just sounds phenomenal. And going into the 404 Mark II with those effects, yeah, just a great combination. I brought out the E4, like I stated. I'm not sure if it'll find a place or not. I would really like it to, because I think it also sounds great, but we will see where that goes. I did bring out the 1010 Blue Box, which I had to go find. I had no clue where it was. It was in its box way up in the attic. I originally just ran the nano box into the 404, and I ran the output of the drums into the nano box, but I wasn't really satisfied with the level of control I was getting there. So I decided that an individual channel for each would be awesome, and I do own the 1010 Blue Box, so just seems like a good piece of gear to use. And then when I was up there, I also dug out the Launch Control XL, because thanks to the Morningstar MC6 Pro, I can actually integrate it into the setup and have it control just about everything here. And with a proper MIDI controller, I can also swap out the KeyStep 37 here, probably for the Microlab, which is a lot smaller, and I think it'll just make a bit more sense here in the grand scheme of things, especially since I won't need the CC knobs there, because I'll have access to all of those. So that's the update right now. I'm going to keep working, and we'll see how it goes. Okay, so here we are, much later in the day, and here is the setup I have decided to go with. I need to get a charger for this. Anyway, pretty much got everything in here that I wanted. I actually went out to the shop and was digging around in some old random pieces of wood and found this little riser that someone had made for something, and it just so happens to fit here almost perfectly. So I'll probably build something a little more permanent in the future once I actually, decide that I do like this setup and want to go for it. But for now, it works great. And on top, we've got the Launch Control XL, the Fireball, and the Blue Box. And then down here, we've got the KeyStep 37, which I was actually able to keep due to the riser. Now we can power it via USB, and then, can't see it because it's kind of blending in, but run MIDI out via the 5-pin. Then over here, we've still got the SP-404 Mark II, and right here, we've got the Roland E4, so I was able to fit that in. It's actually sitting in my iPad holder, which no longer has a home, although it probably will. I just need to get another little clip mount to put right there. But I thought testing out the E4 was more important than having the iPad set up. And of course, I need a charger / power for the E4 as well. But everything is MIDI'd in, everything is hooked up. I've started working on a new project on the Blue Box to have everything, properly mixed and sounding good. Basically, the Nano Box, the E4, and the TD17 all go into their own channels in the back of the Blue Box, and then the output of the Blue Box goes into the input of the 404 Mark II. So everything still runs through the 404. That was the thing that I wanted to keep consistent with this setup. Since we're getting Sidechain on here, it's going to be even more complete of a, not necessarily an audio workstation, but kind of. I don't really know how to describe it at this point. But either way, it's the crux of this setup. Everything goes in here. My rule was that I wanted to be able to very quickly unplug it and take it on the go to perform or film other videos with. So all I have to do is unplug the headphones there, and then unplug the power, MIDI out, MIDI in, and the line in pair, and that's it. I'm pretty excited to get some controls set up here on the Launch Control XL. I actually haven't used this for almost 2 years, I think. It's still set up to the old RC600 live looping rig that I had. So I'll definitely have to plug that into the computer, get some new stuff set up there. I want to be able to control the Nano Box, the Blue Box, the 404 Mark II, and the E4, all with the Launch Control. And then I also do need to come up with some preset ideas for the MC6 Pro. I know I want one of these buttons down here to toggle the mute for channel 3, which is the Roland E4. So I want to be able to turn the mic on and off with just the pop of a foot switch. As far as other MIDI mapping ideas I have, I think I want some of these buttons down here to correspond to some of my favorite patches on the Fireball, so I can just easily switch between them. Definitely going to be mapping some SP-404 effects to these controls up here, which I've never done before. That's really exciting. I need to get the KeyStep 37 to the point where it can control the E4 too for some vocal stuff. But yeah, all in all, very happy with the idea of this setup anyway. The crazy thing is I was not really planning on changing my setup or doing anything, and then Roland announces sidechaining coming to the 404 Mark II, and it just kind of ran a truck through everything. Like, I feel like a hurricane hit my setup. It really just goes to show how game-changing even just one feature being added to a device can be. I mean, the community has been asking for sidechaining on the 404 Mark II for years. It's finally coming. It's going to be here. It might be here by the time you're watching this. This video will only have been out for 24 hours before the update comes out. So yeah, I'm really excited. Expect a video on it from me. I'm hopefully going to try to get one in on Friday. I typically don't film on Fridays. I just edit and release. But we'll see. I'm going to try to sneak one in there for everybody. In the meantime, let me know what you think of this setup. Did I do a good job? Is stuff making sense to you? If you liked the video, be sure to leave a like on it. If not, dislike is perfectly acceptable as well. Either way, be sure to hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell so you don't miss any of my future content with this setup or the evolution of this setup, or so you don't miss my SP-4 Mark II video going over the sidechaining. I'm sure it's going to be cool. Thank you so very much for being here. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.